We are very close to the Eglinton subway in Toronto with SarahRose and Andrew. How are you?
Great, thanks. Thanks so much for coming here to see us. And how are you?
Thank you. Good. Very good here. It's very welcoming space. First of all, I wanted to know whether we are at the space of whole note, pulse music, pulsar, or what is the whole space? Because you have like very different hats, and if I may say so, beginning to very interesting hats. But what is this space?
Thank you. Yes. So we are currently at Whole Note Psychotherapy, which is our clinic space. It's our psychotherapy and music therapy practice here in Midtown Toronto. Because I am both a certified music therapist and a registered psychotherapist, we offer both for anybody looking for therapy. So Andrew and I started this business about a year ago, and we offer sessions, whether people are interested in psychotherapy, talk therapy, or music therapy. We offer them here in the space or virtually or a hybrid. So that's where we are right now. We're at Whole Note Psychotherapy Clinic.
Perfect. And then what is music therapy? Or that's a question, because we all have feelings because of the music, but we don't know that music can heal, isn't it?
This is such an important question, but you're right. Music can heal. Music is healing. What music therapy is, it's a specific profession where professionals are trained to offer music as a therapeutic healing practice. So I use music in my therapy sessions very carefully, I would say, to connect with people, to support people, to help people heal, to help people process. I use live music. So I play, I sing, I engage with my clients to play or sing music. We do songwriting, we improvise, we do lyric analysis, we do musical autobiographies where we create playlists based on people's lives. But my work is actually also at Princess Margaret Cancer Center, which is, I don't know, maybe 7 kilometers south of us. So at the hospital, I do the same work. I just do it in the hospital setting. But it feels really beautiful to be able to offer music therapy in this space for community members. We see kids, we see adolescents and young adults, we see older adults as well. So music therapy in and of itself is a profession where we harness the power of music and support people at any age or stage of their lives.
That's I think a very important task, and also it's very important that somebody who does that is certified. But for what I've seen also during your performances, an important part is Andrew, because I remember the video we can also reach to through Pulse Music or in YouTube, where, you are telling a personal experience with the music therapy. And then there is Andrew, like, playing the guitar, because you're cellist, aren't you? But you also play the guitar. And how do you work together when you are performing or where you are telling these stories?
Well, Pulse Music started as an idea maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And that came out of some of the stories from SarahRose's work. So she would often come home from work. This was before we had the clinic. So she'd come home from the hospital and she would talk about some of the experiences that she had. I can't believe it, but music did this today for somebody, or music had this effect on somebody. Of course, I didn't get specific details, but I would get sort of these general things, a story about someone who maybe was non-responsive to medical treatment or wasn't communicating in any way, but she would play a certain song that a family member told them had meant something to them at some point in their lives, and Sarah would start playing it on the keyboard, and suddenly, they would start tapping along, or they would move a little bit, or they would smile, or they would open their eyes, or something, seemingly small but quite incredible would happen. And story after story would come home and we'd talk about it. And for me, this was a new way to think about and kind of experience through the story the power of music. I'm a professional cellist, trained as a professional cellist. And so, you always hear about the power of music and what music does to us, and music sort of as a therapeutic tool of, from an audience perspective. But we never really talk about music in an actual music therapy sense, or as a healing tool, or what it can do for people at very intense points in their lives. So hearing these stories for me was really impactful, and I thought, I think the world needs to hear these stories. We need to share this with the world because not enough people know about it. And what we can do is we can take these stories, and obviously what we do is we change the actual details, because that's a pretty important part of what SarahRose does, is the confidentiality. But we change the details. We sort of make these hybrid stories, but with the spirit of what happened. And I thought, wouldn't it be incredible to share some of these stories and then perform the music live that is featured in the story itself? So that could be anything from a solo cello Bach suite, the G major prelude, I think is quite popular in your work, to a song by Leonard Cohen, or a song by the Beatles, or a song by Taylor Swift, or a Brahms piano trio. Like, the range is so incredibly wide of what SarahRose does in her work. And I thought there's so much opportunity to combine stories and music in a way that's never really been done before. And for me, the goal of the project was twofold. It was, one, to share what music therapy is with the world, and not in the way that you would lecture someone. Music therapy is this, here's the definition of it, but to tell stories and to really show people what it is and what it can do. And then on the other side, from my perspective, to give context to music that can sometimes be difficult. It's very hard to play a Beethoven string quartet, or Brahms piano trio, or any kind of classical music to an audience that doesn't know it very well. It can be difficult music. We know that as classical musicians, and we try and speak from the stage and explain what the composer was thinking. But I thought these stories can give new context to music, new and old. And if the audience has the context of this story, maybe they're going to listen to the music differently. Maybe they're going to appreciate that Brahms piano trio in a new way, or they're going to listen or hear things a little differently if they have the context of how this could be powerful in a different setting. And so the idea of Pulse was born through these conversations about this, and then it's grown from this initial seed of a concept into something that we now present as a concert, as a sort of lecture recital, or a combination of things like that. So it's been a lot of fun to develop this project together.
And it's also very touching for the audience, because I've been part of that audience. That's where I met you in one of the concerts of the COC. And when Sarah was talking about a patient, was saying, "Oh, I don't know if it's exactly violin or cello," and then it comes the sound of the cello, and it's like the power of this, in this case, Bach, or as you said, whatever piece of music is, it's when you really feel it, and it's not the same like performing live, like that. Send me an MP3 and I will listen in my ears, isn't it?
It is. It's different to perform it as well. We did a concert in September where I keep talking about a Brahms piano trio because that's something we played in this concert we did in the fall. And the story that went along with it was quite powerful. It was about a patient describing their experience of the Brahms B major piano trio, the first movement, and how it sort of tells the story of a life, and it goes into detail of different sections. And as someone who's played that piano trio quite a number of times in many different contexts, and it's always been one of my favorite pieces to play, suddenly I felt so different playing it. Even after knowing the story that was written and rehearsing it with the story, in concert you hear the story, you feel the energy of the people listening, and then something that I rarely feel, I have to say, on stage, the audience was so primed to listen to this piece, this 13-minute Brahms piano trio that I'm sure most of them had never heard before. Suddenly, as a performer, you feel all sort of eyes and ears are focused on you. You're in the moment of having just heard this story, and then you want to do the story justice with the performance. So there's an extra layer, or many extra layers, that go into the actual performance. So it's not just about hearing it from the audience. I think it's a two-way, three-way communication thing. It's just really beautiful.
And I think that speaks to relationship, which is at the core of what music therapy offers. To your point, I don't send people MP3s and suggest they listen to it prescriptively like a physician might prescribe a medicine. I engage in relationship with my patients, with my clients, in the same way we engage in relationship with our audiences, and we invite them into the music with a completely different lens. If a patient doesn't trust me, we're not necessarily going to have a profound therapeutic exchange. It takes a lot of trust to invite somebody into your hospital room, especially in a time of vulnerability. So that trust, establishing that connection, and for a patient to share their story, share their experience, and for them to be willing to hear it through music, or willing to sing, or willing to listen, or willing to describe the relationship they have with a piece of music, it can be life-changing. And this is the power of music therapy. It's the relationship as much as it is the music itself.
Absolutely. But I think that lots of musicians could be thinking, oh, that's wonderful, I would like to do it. And well, being a musician, it's hard enough. But how did you get to be also a certified music therapist? Because it means that you're careful enough. So if I ask for Beethoven, you play like the last hit of Manowar, a heavy metal song.
Well, exactly. And I think we have to be very careful as music therapists, not only with the performance aspect, but also with what comes after. Because 99% of the time, there is some kind of response, whether it's subtle or overt. And so often, people begin to cry, or people begin to tell stories, and they're often surprised that they are crying or that they are so emotional. So what do we do with that? That's where the music therapy training comes in. So how did I get here? I was first a pianist. As a little kid, I started Suzuki piano lessons. It became such an integral part of my life and identity, I became a Suzuki piano teacher. I taught for many years, but as I was teaching, I realized I was so invested in my students' mental health, almost more than their musical outcomes. And I was so engaged in how the music was affecting their emotional well-being. From the children to the young adults to the older adults that I was teaching, I noticed music was doing more than just providing a kind of aesthetic outlet. So I thought, I have to explore this. I started volunteering at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health as a pianist, not knowing what on earth I was doing. I would go and I would play on these inpatient floors, and people would respond so profoundly to the music I was playing. There would be tears, laughter, stories, sharing, all kinds of things. I thought, I gotta figure this out. I went back to school and I did a master's in music therapy. You can become a music therapist through a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in Canada or in the United States. You are then required to do an internship and get your certification. So I went through the process and now have the privilege of actually teaching graduate music therapy students.
It's a long road, but it's fruitful road, I guess, because even Andrew got involved in a way.
Well, very supportive from the get-go. I mean, we have known each other for the better part of 20 years. And I have...
And you're 21, 22.
I can't believe I know. And we have been married for close to 10 years, just over 9. So we've navigated this road together. And as a beginning music therapist, I was pretty overwhelmed and pretty confused about what to do with all of this emotion I was feeling and experiencing. So Andrew was very much able to see a path forward for us to take this and share this with the world together in a way that was meaningful for both of us and continues to be.
Mm-hmm. And what is the process when you are performing as poles because it was an hour. I think it was on the COC. Well, I thought it was 10 minutes. I was saying, hey, this hasn't finished yet. So, but it's so touching. It's, everything looks like there's a lot of work behind it. But what's the process you do to, at the end, present this and work as poles?
Well, I think, like I said, it starts as just the concept of stories and music, but um, as someone who's played many, many different kinds of classical music concerts over the years, I wanted to reimagine the experience of a classical music concert. It's not all classical music, actually. We do some songs. I think we played some Beatles at that show. So it's a variety of music, but I wanted to reimagine what the concert experience is and sort of what can we do from the stage, that's a little bit different. So I start thinking in terms of sort of a common thread through the story. So it's not just story music, story music, story music that are connected, but there's some thread that connects the whole show together and gives it a sense of cohesiveness. So that's one thing that we often think about. And sometimes we will do a selection of different stories that have a common thread, or sometimes we'll do, 2 or 3 kind of longer stories that feature several pieces of music. And each story has a bit of an arc, which is represented in the music as well, and how we program it. So I think we give a lot of consideration to that early on when we choose the program. We also choose it sometimes based on who we want to work with musically. We've been really lucky to work with some incredible musicians. In the beginning, our first ever show actually was at the COC, Canadian Opera Company, and that was sort of a partnership with their education program. And we were lucky to play with Alex Soloway, a wonderful pianist, and Lauren Margison, a soprano. They just sort of paired us up. So it was a lot of fun to throw in some opera and some chamber music, cello and piano, and a couple different things there. But more recently, we've done piano trio. We've done kind of folk pop ensemble, like guitar and mandolin, piano, violin, voice. We play with musicians that can sort of play multiple instruments. So it's been a lot of fun to sort of design programs around the skill set of some of our friends and musical colleagues. That's been a lot of fun as well. And then other things, we weren't able to do so much of this at the COC concert you came to, but we do think about lighting and environment when we have the opportunity to, sort of self-produce. So these are all the considerations that we think about when we're programming, and then we sit down and we hammer it out. We talk about which story is going to work where, how are we going to piece these things together. As I said earlier, confidentiality being a big not hurdle, but sometimes a challenge, because you do have to change certain details. So the stories they're malleable, right? So we work on the stories together a little bit to make it work. And how can we transition into this piece and out of that piece? How can we tie these two stories together? Claire de Lune is a great example, which we performed at the COC. Talking that wasn't a specific story with the patient. That was, how does music affect us? What happens to our brain when we hear a familiar piece of music, punctuated by phrases in Claire de Lune, and then slowly drifting into the entire performance of the piece. So all these different creative aspects come together, and it's actually a lot of fun to put these shows together. It's a lot of work, of course, but it's work, but it's fun.
That's the part we can, I could say, enjoy as audience. But there's another part that's the daily work as a music therapist, as you said, as here at Whole Note and also at the hospital. And I mean, for people who may be thinking, I don't know if this can be improved, cured, or this can be worked through music therapy. I remember right now a film I saw at Hot Dogs Aristine, which is this person who suffers from muscle atrophy. And
the story. I heard it on CBC a few days ago.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And just wanted to know, what can you do with music therapy specifically? Because there are some very touching testimonies during your performance of people who know, I know I'm going to die. My family they don't know it, but I know. But there are also people who suffer, I don't know, maybe from different conditions, like maybe autism, maybe depression. What can you do? What can you do with the music?
so much. Music can touch so many parts of us that can be so complicated or complex or challenged by different disease, illnesses, diagnoses, challenges of everyday living. And I will also just reiterate what Andrew said about confidentiality. Every story we tell is what I call a composite patient. No patient would ever be able to even identify themselves because I take moments and experiences and anonymize them completely so that what we are left with is an experience that has truth in it, but I very much pull from just different moments that I've had, and it becomes completely anonymous and confidential, but the audience is invited into the experience very authentically.
Yeah.
What can music do? Music offers a way to connect with so many different aspects of human experience, from our physiological existence in the world, our neurological well-being, our cognitive well-being, our emotional, spiritual, psychosocial, and social, generally social well-being. So what do I mean by all of that? Music can affect how we move through the world physically. A lot of what I do at the hospital is help people manage their pain. So if someone is experiencing a pain crisis or significant pain that is difficult to control with medicine alone, I may be asked by the doctor to come in and work with the patient to provide a diversion from the pain. If they are listening to me and engaged in music with me, they are less focused on their experience of pain. If I can help them slow their breathing, slow their heart rate, lower their blood pressure, increase their oxygenation through music, and we know music can do all of this, then their experience of pain may not be as acute or as intense. I'm not taking away the source of pain, but I'm offering a way for them to manage it. Because when we take a deep breath and we exhale for a long stretch, we decrease the cortisol level in our brain, that stress response, that adrenaline response. If I can help somebody control their breath, manage their physiological experience, even for a moment, it can provide some relief or some comfort. Now, that's just scratching the surface of the physical engagement with music. We have children, in the clinic who might play instruments and have that be a creative form of self-expression. Perhaps they can't put into words what it is they feel because they don't have the language to articulate pain they may be experiencing, emotional suffering, but they can bang a drum, or they can pound on the piano, or they can sing, and this can be a very therapeutic, cathartic way for them to say, this is me, and this is my voice, and I matter in the world, and I am valued. And there, as a music therapist, I show up and I play music with them. I match them where they're at. I match their intensity, I honor their experience, and we have fun, and it's creative. Music can be profoundly spiritual and can connect to faith traditions. So often in my hospital work, people are managing what we call existential suffering. Why is this happening to me? What am I going to do with this intense pain and suffering? And music can be an outlet to just feel it, experience it, connect with it, let it pass through them, move through them, give voice to something that almost feels they can't articulate at all. So it very much depends on the person I'm working with or any of our team members are working with. They come in and we get to know who they are and what they need. Music can affect our physical, our emotional, our cognitive experience. Thinking about Alzheimer's and dementia, sometimes people cannot put to words what is happening because their brains are no longer able to do that. They can't recall. But when the right song comes on, or they are singing the right song, suddenly they are transported back to memories that were otherwise forgotten.
Wow.
There is a lot of science and research behind all of this, but suffice it to say, music targets so many different aspects of our bodies, our minds, and our hearts.
Does music have side effects?
Yes, most of them are positive.
The best side effects.
Yes. Most of them are lovely, but there are, as music therapists, we know times when music can be dangerous. I've had experiences where patients have an adverse reaction to music. It is overstimulating. It is too much. They are in a state where too much sound stimulation is overwhelming, painful, or they don't want to feel the emotions that they are dealing with. And that's okay. We cannot force people to engage with an emotional experience. I've had patients say to me, no, I do not want music because I know it is too much for me right now. I am not ready to feel what is inside of me. It is too much. I have had patients say that it's too loud, too overwhelming. I can't. And I've also had patients say that song will bring up too many painful memories and I don't want to. So giving people autonomy and control over that is very important. And as music therapists, it's part of our training. How do we manage stimulation? Because music can be invasive, right? You can close your eyes and sort of cancel out visual stimulation. You cannot in the same way cancel out auditory stimulation unless you have like specific equipment to do so. Music can be quite invasive because the sounds and the vibrations actually bounce around the room, bounce off of our bodies. They are so visceral that you have to be careful. I often start with 2 or 3 minutes with a patient and then I check in. How is that? How is that feeling? What's going on in your body? What's going on in your mind? Shall we continue? Very careful not to assume. And you cannot assume that because somebody comes from a certain part of the world or has a certain cultural background, that they have specific music they're going to like. That's dangerous. So we have to be so delicate and gentle in how we approach a person with music.
If I could just add on something that we've talked about, but is now sort of common. There was this very famous iPod project where they brought iPods with headphones, I think to people with Alzheimer's, is that right, or dementia? And they put the headphones on them and they make a playlist of music from their past or their youth or from a certain era when they were young, and they put the headphones on these people and turn the music up. And there's a lovely video of this lovely gentleman who has a fantastic time listening to the music and just great reactions. But I'm almost certain, there are other people you put the headphones on, and what if that song triggers a horrible memory or something they don't want to feel in that moment, and they don't have the physical or the cognitive ability to stop the music. There was a big assumption made that this would just be net positive for everyone, and I think there's a lot of danger in that because you need someone skilled. That's not me. That's why SarahRose is a certified music therapist. I play on a stage where people willingly come to listen. That's totally different. I can play whatever I want, really. But in these very delicate situations, you need someone skilled who knows how to navigate, how to use music in a safe way, which I don't think is something you'd think about right away as a non-music therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it happens to us. Music moves us in different ways, and I guess that you as professional musicians, you felt it, not only hearing it, but playing it. So maybe different pieces of music, raise some feelings to you. But when you are not at all okay, or maybe you're delicate, then it's good to have someone who cares about your mental state, your feelings. So you talk about a team. What's part of the team? What people are part of your team? And imagine there are some musicians who say, "Oh, this is going interesting. I want to be part of the team." How can they apply, or how could they be a music therapist? Let's say, "Oh, I want to be like SarahRose. I want to be like Andrew. I don't want to be like Antonio." How can we do it?
So I often get people inquiring about pursuing music therapy as a career or as a second career, like I did. And I often guide them towards our national association, the Canadian Association of Music Therapists. And all the information on how to become a music therapist, long road that it is available there. musictherapy.ca, easy to remember. But as far as our team, we're very fortunate to be able to work together and play off each other's skill sets. Andrew manages the business and oversees the business of Holdout, and I do the therapy and the client engagement. But we also have another team member, Michaela McKen, who we're really thrilled to work with. She's a certified music therapist, also a registered psychotherapist in her qualifying stage, and and brings a whole bunch of other different skill sets. She plays a whole bunch of other instruments that I don't play and has a unique lens that I don't have. So we play off each other's strengths. And we also have people interested in connecting with our team in the community. So we get referrals from different community members who send clients to us. But as far as Pulse goes, we have what we like to think of as our Pulse community of musicians who have worked with us in the past, who are planning to work with us in the future. These are colleagues of Andrew's and of mine, but mostly of Andrew's in the professional music realm, who are performing all over the city and also join us in performances as we bring stories to life. So we are always open to connecting and getting to know people who are interested in this work, whether they want to pursue music and health or want to pursue performing with a music and health perspective. So reach out. We always want to hear from new people.
Yeah. And Toronto's such a great place. I mean, I feel so lucky as a performing musician. Everyone I meet and perform with, just more and more wonderful people every time. And there's so many people with a varied skill set. And I know amazing classical players that also fiddle or play bluegrass or sing or play. It's amazing. And people are so willing and open to try new things here, which is really wonderful. So I think the collective is growing. And, you know, we have big ideas for this project. We'd love to do it with a symphony at some point and do the storytelling combined with an entire symphony orchestra. I think it would be fabulous.
Wow.
And potentially with singers. There's lots of big dreams, you know, that we're building towards. So the collective can grow infinitely.
Yeah, that's good to know that you have plans for the future. But, well, Sarah, I warned you before doing the interview, because on the website we can see that Andrew can be too far away from his cello, but you can't be too far away from, you told me the name. This is, what's the name? A sound box, you told me? Or...
So it could either be a sound bowl or a singing bowl.
Uh-huh.
This particular one has its origins in Tibet. So this is a Tibetan singing bowl. And I have a collection of them that have come from different places. Some have been gifted to me. Some I have bought in Tibetan stores around Toronto, including this one. And I use this along with my other musical instruments for varying reasons. Often it's a beautiful way to engage in mindfulness and meditation, to offer people a focal point. They listen to the sound and they are very much in the present moment with the sound. But I use this as a pain management tool at the hospital all the time. People find they get lost in the sound, they get consumed by it, wrapped up in it, and comforted by the vibrations. So I wonder if we'll be able to pick up on it, but I'm happy to demonstrate if that's helpful. When I play this close to somebody's body, they can often feel that visceral vibratory response because it is so powerful. And also people find it just engaging to focus in and to be in the moment with this type of sound.
Well, so I guess there's no better way to end this interview. So we feel okay, now we feel relaxed, now we feel ready for our music therapy session or for our Pulse concert. Thank you very much, and best of luck for the future. And well, because we need you, absolutely we need you.
Thank you so much
I
for coming
agree.
in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.